How's it going? I hope I can do this because it is a bit windy. I'm out for a walk and I've recorded loads of videos lately. I've deleted all of them. I record them, and I suppose in speaking, my own interpretation or whatever is coming through me settles or gradually changes or evolves. So by the time then I get to editing, it's kind of ancient history, or my own frequency in relation to that of the recording has changed, so I don't really feel the recording is valid, so I leave it. So I record loads and I upload a fraction. So I'm hoping this isn't the same with this one, but we'll see what happens. So over the last few days, I've had quite a few heavy shifts myself. A lot of grief coming up and heartbreak in relation to a few different things. Now, Rumi says, I can't remember the quote exactly, but the heart must be repeatedly broken to be opened. And obviously in the West and in the modern world, we see heartbreak as a problem, or grief as a problem that we have to stop or we have to solve. But I would view it very differently. I would view it as a gift. It's opening and releasing pain or old pain, be it from this life or previous lives, be it from relationships or family or who knows. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter where it comes from or what it means, any of that kind of stuff. It's an emotion, it's a feeling, it's a grief, it's a pain. Allow that out. Allow that to breathe. And we gain a little bit more peace and a little bit more space in our heart for love. To expand. And that is the risk of love, maybe we fall in love and maybe it's amazing and maybe there's cherubs and all those kind of lovely things, and maybe we're heartbroken as well. Maybe there's loss, there's grief, maybe it doesn't work out. That's the risk. But in working through a lot of that, I had two beautiful moments, two realizations. You're going to hear the sea a bit more here. And what was interesting about these is that I wasn't philosophizing, I wasn't sitting thinking, I wasn't trying to figure out how does this work or how will I do this. These insights just dropped in, bang. Ooh, I hadn't seen that before, I hadn't felt or thought that before. They were new. As I've often said, as we can move out of analysis and out of the mind and thinking, whatever we need to know will be presented. It will flow through us in presence. We don't have to go digging or looking for it. So, can you hear the sea? It's actually quite a high tide. I hope you can hear me. You can probably just hear the sea. You'll miss all the important stuff. Anyway, we'll see what happens. So the two things. One, and people who've done my course or worked with me really know that the importance of presence, of being on earth, of being in the body. I'm not about trying to get to the fucking ninth dimension or any of that kind of thing. I'm really interested in exploring what it's like to be a human. What it's like to activate and open these chakras, the crown, connection to higher dimensions, the awareness of having all that in line while being a human on earth. As opposed to leaving the human to go someplace else, which is what a lot of us seem to be trying to do because we don't like it here, or we're struggling here, we're suffering here, so we're trying to go someplace else. I don't really agree with that, but that's just my journey. So the being present, is beneficial in a lot of areas, and ultimately it's the foundation, as I've touched on before, no pun intended. It's the foundation of Tantra, or tantric sex, to be present. My own changes were that I thought I was a good lover. I think I was. But it was all technique. My goal was kind of to satisfy the woman. And then as I discovered and brought presence into the boudoir, it was really about just being present within me and then being open and vulnerable with the person that I was with. And for me, I found that terrifying, to be honest, and I think a lot of people do. It's because then there's no ego, we're not managing the situation, We're not looking sexy or cool. We're not trying to please that person in case they are unhappy or in case they dislike us or in case they're not in the mood or whatever it may be. We're just there and we're going to roll with what happens. It's quite frightening, but it's also very humbling and very fulfilling. It's a deeper connection with ourselves and a deeper experience with the other person. So, and for me, it's kind of, once I began to move in that direction, I kind of just lost interest in sex. Lost interest in sex for the sake of it, or just the physical act. It was like, I don't want to do that anymore. I'm more unnerved by that now. I'm more interested in a connection, in the openness, in the heart connection, in the presence. And that then it brings in more risk. Can I meet someone who can meet me in that state, in that space? Maybe not, you know. Maybe they'll get freaked out. How do I manage that situation? Do you see the word that actually came out? Manage. So again, it's the ego kind of trying to steer rather than allow it to unfold or allow it to flow in the present moment, to not have the answers until the situation is presented. So the two discoveries that I had, one is that, you know, often I move my attention, say, into my core. I'm walking now, so I can feel it in my chest. I'm aware of my body. I'm now aware of my voice, aware of my visuals. I'm not naming things. I don't name colors or cars or things I see. It's a visual, it's a painting. I don't have to dissect it. So what would happen is that my attention would I'd bring my attention to these things. It might last a few seconds, and then I'd find myself back in my mind, thinking, analysing, thinking, daydreaming, whatever it may be. I'd come back to the body. But the one discovery or breakthrough that I had was to give the observer something to observe. So hands, core, feet, lower back, hearing, visual, core, stomach, and to basically continue to give the observer work to do. The ego and that default mode network, which I did talk about in a video that I didn't release, is that part of the mind that just keeps going and churning and analysing and thinking. It needs something to look at. If we don't give it something to look at, it will think, it will daydream. If we give it the body to look at, the core to look at, presence, food to taste, breath to breathe, then we are present. So that was quite a big thing. That was a huge realization for me. I can extend my presence and continually practice and extend being present. Then the second thing which I found, which is really still sinking in, and I think is, for me, is extremely profound, it's the value of presence versus the value of thought. So if I'm thinking, my coffee was too hot today or too cold, and I'm in my mind, and then I think, hey, you're thinking, I can be present. Might be easier to move into presence then, because who really cares? I can move on from the coffee situation. But let's say it's daydreaming about, I don't know, winning the lottery, or an argument, someone in work who really pushes your buttons, and you're kind of, fucking spend the day mulling over and analysing and thinking, he said this or she said that. Blah, 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 blah. That's an addiction. It's a physical, literal addiction that releases chemicals into the body that the physical body is addicted to. So part of our work is to overcome and master the body. I'm God. I'm not a physical body. It's an aspect of me. But yet it might want sugar, it might want cigarettes, it might want exercise, it might want sex. So we've all these things that the body's like, I want this. And we're the servant pretty much of the body. We're running around fucking giving it all this stuff to keep it happy. We're slaves to this physical thing. So bringing it in line and realigning the body and retuning, I suppose what I would also say is what may be under the body's needs for these things can often be some degree of discomfort, some degree of uncomfortable emotion that it's seeking the cigarette or the drink or the whatever it may be to feel differently. So value. Let's say the argument, it's something you're addicted to. There's value in it. Your being, your body, your mind is drawn to this, going over this again and again and again. Let's say it's love. Let's say it's you've fallen in love, or there's someone in work that you fancy and you keep thinking about them. There's value in it. Ooh, fantasizing. Do they love me? Will we meet again in the water cooler, coffee room, whatever the fuck people do in offices, or maybe you're not in an office. So there's value. Ooh, there's value in this daydream. And then we might say, the mind might come in and go, oh, be present. And maybe the be present is like sitting in a car in traffic, or I don't know, being in the shower or walking to work and you're thinking, oh, fuck this, like the daydream is far nicer than this. I want to keep going back to the daydream. So the daydream is more valuable to you. Now, the realization I had over the last few days were moments that I hadn't seen that before. I hadn't realized the value, but I began to realize and see the option that the thoughts that were going through my head had varying degrees of value. So some of them were like the coffee, I could walk away from them, and some of them were like, winning the lottery or something that were intense, or the argument that were, my mind really wants to get into this one, juicy, and they were harder to move away from. But what I witnessed was the option. More and more we gain the option, and it's like column A or column B. What would you like? It's like the option to stay present in this body right now, or get into this juicy argument or fantasy or whatever it may be. Distraction, escapism. And some of those moments were, one of those moments was falling asleep last night. It's like, well, if I come back to being present, I'm just fucking lying in bed, alone. Sadly, so it's like, okay, and the juicy fantasy or the argument or thing is like, wow, that's nice. I can fall asleep with a daydream, but that's the choice. That as we move along and we fuel and continue to be present, there is more of a reward. The masculine energy of the mind settles down. The over analysis, we're more in the heart. There's more of a flow. There's more of a presence. We don't have to plan as much, if at all. We just go with it. We just feel. We do what we're moved to do. Also, the stress in the body begins to release. We become more in tune with our body. We get sick, we get diseases, we get back pain and all these kinds of things. We think, why have I back pain? Because we're so disconnected from our bodies for decades, carrying stress and tension, and then the body gets sick. So as we become more present, what's happened to me is I've started to realize and see the depth of stress and tiredness in the cells and in different parts of the body. And it's like, okay, I can move into this now. I can be present with this. I'm sorry, be present and be with this pain, that I haven't been aware of, that I've abandoned my body, my emotions, my being for so long. So everything slows down and we begin to gain more. We begin to see more in the present moment, that it feels different. It looks different. Now, I suppose in returning and wrapping up, returning to the idea of value, we get to a point where the daydreaming, the fantasies, the arguments in the head, any of that chatter loses value. We get to a point where we think, I'm fucking done with it. I'm exhausted with this stuff. I don't need this. As people do say, well, you need a balance of ego and you need some. As I scale back and release thinking more and more and more, I have yet to come across a problem or a moment where I think, fuck, I need some of my ego back. I haven't encountered it. The more quiet I become, the more I step out of these fucking daydreams, fantasies, arguments, analysis, whatever it may be, the more energy I have, the more at peace I am, the more calm and grounded I am during the day, and just quite simply, the more present I am in the simplicity of life. That this thing up here, the churning, wants activity. It wants excitement. It wants the falling in love, or the winning the lottery, or the juicy, chemical fueled argument. So in life, it wants these experiences. It wants activity, drama, TV shows, Netflix, activity. If we remove all this, we're just on Earth. You're just in a body walking around. How challenging is that? Even the spirituality world, it's all about getting to higher dimensions. Whoa, opening your heart chakra. Mad experiences. Whoa, this happened and that happened and I saw this and that. How about actually just being in a body on Earth? It's the most unattractive, unsexy thing to most people. But from my experience, I feel that I moved more and more to be this because the other stuff is losing value. It's losing interest. It doesn't fulfill me. It doesn't really excite me. It feels like it's just wasting time and energy. And also, the masters and sages and those who follow me on Instagram would see a lot of the quotes that I post, that these beings and people talk about just being present and the beauty, the simplicity, the joy that can be found in just being in a moment. So more and more I move to just experience that rather than the other stuff, I want to allow the other stuff to pass. I want to be so grounded and centered that I can look at the other stuff and think, nah, not getting into that, Or to be, as I mentioned, sex and intimacy, to be present with that person. To not be in my mind trying to satisfy them or fulfill them or daydreaming. How's this going to work out? Is it going to be amazing? Just to be fucking present. They could be dead tomorrow. I could be dead tomorrow. It could be all over, never meet again. And I mean that even as I've talked, often in the past of meeting, I'm having experiences. This is clean, trust me. Encounters with waitresses here. I just get on really well with Spanish waitresses. I have a buzz with them all the time, everywhere I go. It's just really cool. There's nothing untoward. There's nothing else happens, sadly. But we just have a laugh, and I want to be present in those moments. I might never go back. I'm moving around this island at times. I'm eating in different places, so I may never see them again. May never be in these places again. But so I just want to savor those moments of presence, to connect with someone, smile with someone, have fun with someone for fucking 3 minutes, or whatever it may be. And that to take that out into my day, into each moment. I'm walking along by the sea here. I've stopped walking at the moment to avoid the wind. But again, to be present, to hear the sea, to hear these sounds and see these sounds and really experience them as if never before. Anyway, thanks for listening. Hope that was of use. Any of this stuff makes sense or moves you along your path, feel free to make a donation, link below. And I'll leave some links for Instagram, newsletter and that kind of thing. And be well. Enjoy your day.